So how do they overcome the anxiety or the stress of the results when they put their life into something?
Yeah, I think it's like you really have to process it beforehand. You have to actually assess what, it's like people just like, I want to be successful, I want to be happy. What does that actually mean? Like, what does success actually mean to you? Like, you have to define it so much so that you know what that North Star is. Because let's say people are listening, they have a goal in mind. They have to know exactly precisely what that goal is. For me, the goal was write a book that creates impact. Now look, attach that. I'd love for it to be in New York Times #1, but that is so me looking outside of myself, and there's certain element of I can't control it. Right? Of course, you can come in with all the intention. What are my marketing strategies? How am I going to do this? Who am I going to hit? Like all of that, be very intentional. But at the end of the day, no matter how much intention you have, the success is never guaranteed. This was actually something that Tom taught me.
Right.
He's like, the struggle is for certain. The results aren't guaranteed. So now, are you enjoying the journey? Are you enjoying the struggle every step? So to your point of reminding yourself, but why did you do this? You needed to get it out of you. And those are the things that I think are very imperative to establish before you get started. Because let's face it, failure freaking stings. No matter how much, right? No matter how successful you are, failure still stings. And so making sure you don't allow that failure to cripple you, making sure you don't allow that failure to keep you stuck, to me, is my main goal. Like literally, that is my North Star. Whatever you try, Lisa, you cannot use the success or the failure of it to dictate what you're going to do next. And so for me, it's like, how do I reframe failure? How do I think of failure? How do we process failure? That's such an important thing for us, I think, to do, so that if it happens, you're not left not knowing, not having a strategy, and actually thinking it's about you.
Yes. You've got this book coming out. Women of Impact has been crushing. You've been extremely successful independently yourself with your own identity outside of what it used to be in the marriage, right? Has your success tested the relationship?
Yes.
In the last, few years since you've kind of been blowing up now?
So it's interesting. The reason why I said yes is I didn't actually realize that you were going to say as in popularity. When I was behind the camera and I stepped in front of the camera the first or second time, Tom, literally in front of the entire company, he's like, my wife's going to be bigger than me and I have zero problem with it. He's like, mark my words. He wants it. He's like, he doesn't love being in front of the camera. He's very good at it, but he loves the impact.
Yes.
The camera is just the tool for him. I freaking love this, just hanging with you, and the idea of creating impact and staring at the camera. This could create, who knows where this can go, right? That is such excitement and beauty to me. So the size and popularity, no. But when I went from being a housewife who supported him to being an entrepreneur, that was a big struggle for us. Because what happened was, when Quest was growing, our first facility was in Compton. And Tom, being very passionate and big brothering for a kid who lived in the inner cities, he said it was very important for us to help the inner city people. So when we started Quest, we put out a call and we said, we don't care about your background. We don't care if if you're an ex-convict. We don't care. All we care about is who are you today and who are you willing to become, and are you willing to work hard? And that's it. So now we put a call out, and so literally we had lines and lines and lines of people that were looking for a job.
Wow.
So flash forward, Quest grows 57,000%. I've now got a facility, about 10,000 square feet, 40 employees underneath me within 2 years.
Wow.
I went from shipping on my living room floor, not knowing how to be a boss, to then 40 employees. Now, a lot of them are ex-convicts. A lot of them are much bigger than me, right? They're like your stature.
Sure.
I'm 5'1". You can pick me up with your pinky. So what I thought, bad advice, but what I thought I should do is go in there and be aggressive, because show them you can't be pushed around, Lisa. That's the only way I know how. And a lot of the female entrepreneurships back then as well, this is 2010-ish, 11, were all about, basically, don't show emotion and you have to be like a dude.
Right.
And so I went in there thinking, okay, I'm not going to get pushed around. And so I'm going to go there and I'm going to bark orders and I'm going to tell them, I'm a stern, you can't push me around. Now, you can imagine that didn't motivate any of my team. That was a total disaster. And what that ended up doing, it started to harden me. And one day, Tom pulled me aside in our personal when we got home, and he said, babe, I love you, but you're hardening. And you're hardening to a point where now you're bringing this into our relationship.
Ooh.
And he said, and look, let's talk about it. I understand why you need to harden, because business is tough. So let's actually talk about it. But I want to talk about the lovely, sweet wife that I miss. And he's like, if you bring too much hardness to our relationship, he's like, it doesn't compute with me. He's like, I love your softness. I love that you care. I love that you have this big heart. And because you're starting to soften in business, you're starting to lose the softness in our relationship.
Right.
And so let's talk about that. And I was like, yeah, that's very fair. I love to be, like, I love it when he, like, wraps me around his arms, or like he carries me because my feet are sore. like I love the fact that he's 6 foot. Like I love that about him. And so I was like, oh, you know what? As a relationship, you need to have space where your partner can say the truth, even if you don't agree. Like maybe I want to be hard, but I have to give him space to be heard. So I heard him out. And initially I was defending. I was like, but you don't understand why I have to be hard. You know, it's okay for you. You're a guy. People respect you and blah, you know, and I gave every reason why. And he's like, babe, I'm not saying like this isn't a skill set you need to grow. Of course you do. You have to, you know, dominance is going to be very important in business. But how do we navigate what you're doing in business and our relationship? And so we just started. I was like, okay, that's very fair. When I come home, how do I soften? Because I like to be soft.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out what that strategy was. And so to the strategy that I said of how on earth I suit up to get on stage, I now do the opposite to soften. So literally, if I want to be a big ball of mush, which I really do enjoy being around my husband, you've seen me around him, like I'll sit on his lap and whatever. I do the opposite. I take my jewelry off. I put my hair up. I wear Wonder Woman fluffy pajama bottoms. Or like, in fact, I wear onesies. We have matching onesies that we wear every Saturday. And we match onesies because I want to feel that emotional connection with him on a personal level.
Yeah.
And so to be able to transition with work, your partner being your business partner for like 15 years, to how do you keep that spark alive and the romance alive? It's because you need to know how to navigate the two, where your strengths and weaknesses are, what those tactics are that you're going to use when you need to turn to them. Because sometimes I've gone balls to the freaking wall all day in business, and I'm like I've got hard because all day all I'm doing is making decisions. And now I come home and I got my husband wanting to give me a big squishy hug. How do I transition from one to the other? Knowing how to, having those tactics, testing yourself. You know, what I can say will be different for you or, you know, your listeners at home, but you need to try things. Like I said, for me, it really was undoing the hair, the makeup, the jewelry, taking deep
Changing
breaths,
the uniform.
Changing the uniform.
Yeah.
All these things are allowing me to navigate when I need to be a beast in business and when I want to be a big ball of mush.
I think that's really important for people to understand. I felt like, you know, in the sports world, you see a lot of this in the news sometimes where there's domestic violence from like men with their wives or girlfriends, especially like football players, right? And there's no excuse for this. The challenge is learning how to turn off the destruction from sports. Let's call it football. When you're trained to hit and destroy for hours a day and then trying to switch it off. Either way, when you're business or sports or whatever it might be, we've got to learn those tools to transition from one area of life to the next area of life so we don't bring that. Otherwise, it will be destructive.
Yes.
So I think it's really cool you've learned that skill. What's been besides taking off the uniform, the makeup, and all these different things, is there something else you do psychologically to shift when because you also got work from home and you live at home. So how do you shift psychologically? Yeah,
so I have a lot of tools. So one thing is smelling my husband's neck. I don't get to do that in business because it's business, right?
Yes.
He's on the other side and we're working when we're talking about strategies.
That's cool.
But getting that intimacy, we're literally like, it's so funny, we kind of have this thing now where like if I lean in, he'll just like expose his neck, or vice versa, he'll come out and I just expose my neck, because and there's something very vulnerable about exposing your neck to someone.
Absolutely.
So you would never do that in business, right? So number one, that's that intimacy. I do find music very helpful. So if I need to make a bit of a transition, I'll use music. But embracing that we're different people and that Tom's barometer of how much he can handle work to personal is going to be different than mine. How he handles the shift. So Tom works, the other day he calculated, it's not good, but he works 120 hours in a week. And so he can be on all the time. And he can transition to, okay, I'm on, 5 minutes I'm off, and now I'm back on again. I can't.
Right.
And so embracing that we're different people, we have different ways of doing things. And so what he would do is I would switch off at the end of the night, and he would come in and be like, I just have a business question, this thing. I'm like, I'm off duty. But to your point, when you're working from home, your partner is your business partner as well. And so when he has a different habit, I was like, babe, you can't do this. And he's like, but what if I need something answered? How do I know when you're off duty? And I was like, okay, it's my responsibility to signal to you when and where, because boundaries are very important, but you can't expect someone else to set the boundaries for you, and you can't expect someone else to maintain those boundaries.
Right.
Look, you may not feel amazing, you may not feel confident in this thing, but in order to get to what you want in life, you have to take that step forward. And we all focus on wanting to feel great about doing something. And I just say, I'm not gonna wait to feel great. So right now, I know I have to have this conversation with Tom.